Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post. If you follow my channel, you know I like to follow the very important issues. And this issue is something that people are not paying enough attention to. Hair equity prices are skyrocketing, and that's a very serious problem. There is such a thing as hair equity. I thought I made it up, but apparently I didn't. From my NBC5 Black History Month Hair Equity Project at UVMMC is in full swing. Training and products for health professionals are now available at hospitals to be used on patients with textured hair. Why does this have anything to do with hospitals? How are hospitals involved in all this? What does this have to do with Black History Month? Trump's tariffs are causing chaos. That's what you need to know. It's completely thrown the health equity mission far off track. From the Associated Press, yes, this is the AP, the Associated Press, covering how Trump's tariffs have affected the black hair industry. Which I'm sure is kind of a story, but, it's also affecting prosthetic limbs. Like people that do not have limbs for one reason or another, that actually need the prosthetic limbs that no doubt come from China and are very expensive now. More expensive than they've ever been before. In addition to medical devices, like literally, legitimately actual medical devices that people need for their medical issues. Now, I'm not saying vanity is not important or fitting in is not important. It is. But the Associated Press is covering this in their race and their ethnicity section. So let's get into the story. It seems extremely important. The black hair industry imports products from China. Here's what tariffs mean for braids and wigs. And if you don't have braids and if you don't have a wig, this may be completely new to you. Before the oppressive summer heat descends on Atlanta, therapist Brittany Sims usually gets her thick, curly hair braided at the salon to preserve her healthy mane. But it's more expensive this year, so she'll only pay for her teenage daughter and son to get their summer hairdos. Now that's what a mom is supposed to do. You go without so your kids can have. Although the kids maybe should also be working and pay for their own, but that's another whole story. Still, it's nice to take care of your kids. Not having braided hair, quote, creates more of a hassle for everything, said Sims, who counts herself among the tens of millions of women that regularly spend on the black hair care industry. I'm not a black woman, so I would not have known that there is a black hair care industry specifically, and I know that makes me a little bit out of the loop, but hey, I'm learning just like you. Now, she said, she has to go home and figure out what I'm going to do with my hair in the morning after I went to the gym and it's messed up with sweating and frizz. It does sound serious, but I do have to say so far, I'm still more concerned about the people that have to get prosthetic limbs from China that no longer can get them because they're too expensive somehow. And maybe there's a lot of that going on. Maybe there's not much of that going on. I know the tariffs are absolutely necessary to balance our trade with China and make sure China doesn't take over the entire world. But that is a higher concern for me than somebody being able to get these fake hair care products. President Donald Trump's tariffs are driving up the prices for products many black women consider essential, squeezing shoppers and stylists even more as they grapple with inflation and higher rents. Rents went absolutely berserk in the last couple of years of the Biden administration, between illegal aliens taking up housing, which was a major push factor on rentals, absolutely ridiculous. When you're getting your money from the federal government and they're subsidizing you, and now I have to go compete for rent in the open market, it's going to make it very difficult to rent. If you rent, or you've had to rent, or maybe a child has had to rent, you know that rents have gone up astronomically, which is also more important than fake hair. Much of the synthetic braiding hair, human hair for extensions, wigs and weaves, styling tools, braiding gel, and other products is imported or has packaging from China, which was subject to a combined 145% tariff in April. Tariffs are down to around 30% as of now. India is also a major global source of human hair, which is good to know if you need a lot of human hair. Many black women have hair types and workplace favorite styles that require careful attention, and they can spend hundreds of dollars at salons each month on extensions, weaves, wigs, and braids. The Associated Press thought this was one of the most important stories in the world, and they spoke to several black hair industry experts, beauty supply store owners, and wholesale companies. But they didn't stop there. They also spoke to nearly 24 black stylists and braiders, some of whom have had to raise prices even as business has slowed. Earlier this month, the United States agreed to drop the 145% tax on goods imported from China to 30%, while the two economic superpowers negotiate new trade agreements. China had already pulled back its tariffs prior to that agreement. Not all of their tariffs, but about 25 to 30% of their goods that they were tariffing coming into China from the United States, because as like the world's leader of plastic production, they absolutely needed those imports from the US and some other imports from the US, and China had enough financial problems, they couldn't keep up the tariffs. But you don't hear that talked about publicly because that doesn't support larger narratives that we're getting beaten somehow by China, which we are not. We are beating China. But they are keeping all our fake hair, and that is a problem. For one reason or another, when we talk about the tariffs and 30% of this and 145% of that, there isn't a lot of discussion of, what do you mean 30%? 30% of what? If I decide to go to the hair salon and get extensions, which I don't think I'm going to do, but if I did do that, let's just say that cost me $100. And let's just say for that, it probably costs a lot more than that. Let's say it costs $300. Does that mean it's going to now cost me $390 to get that done if there's a 30% tariff? No, it doesn't mean that. Why not? Because the tariffs are based on the wholesale input cost of the physical material, not the material, say, plus the labor service. So if it costs $300 for Adam to get hair extensions, part of that will be the cost of the hair product, and part of that will be the service. And part of that will be the markup on the cost of the hair product. A normal markup for any physical product is what they call keystone. It's double the price. So let's say the physical hair portion of the salon providing the service is $100 of the $300 for the complete service of Adam's hair extensions plus putting the hair extensions on Adam's beautiful head. That would mean a 30% tariff on Adam's hair would impact only the $100 portion. So that would increase the cost of the hair by 30%. It would be $130 for a $300 service. There probably is a good amount of profit. A lot of places won't even raise their prices. Now, if it's 145%, then it's easy to say, yeah, you know what? Those extensions are going to now cost like $250 or something really high as a physical input cost. Then you have to put labor on top of it. Everybody has to make some money. Understandably, that might cost, say, $500. But it's not going to be 145% of $300, which would be over $600 for Adam to get hair extensions. Very important to understand, input cost is the amount that gets tariffed, not the consumer retail price. But Marty Parker isn't happy. Marty Parker says the next few months are already shot for many items, according to Marty, a University of Georgia business professor and supply chain expert who's worked in the hair care industry. The cost companies have been facing at ports are making their way down to consumers. Supply shortages are getting worse, and it's unclear what will happen if negotiations break down. When I heard about the Trump tariffs, not even the 145% tariffs, but when he first announced the tariffs and he was trying to get these countries under control, the first thing that I was concerned about was a supply shortage. We all saw a massive supply shortage with COVID. You could go to the grocery store and not even reliably get food that you would expect to be able to find at the grocery store. Stockouts, lack of inventory items, sometimes lack of even basic inventory items. That could really happen. Many businesses in China have gone out of business. There are many, many, many businesses in China, and there are alternative suppliers for many things. I don't happen to need any rare earths, luckily, for what I do. But China does supply these rare earths, and not just the rare earths, the processed rare earths that companies need for multiple reasons, for electronics, for fighter jets. It is something we need, and it is something we've allowed China to have leverage with. China has banned rare earth exports. They were supposed to let that ban go, but they have not. And it's not just a ban to the U.S., it's also a ban on U.S.-friendly countries that would help us out with those rare earths. Now, we do have them stockpiled, and it's not a lot of rare earths, but it's enough that it does create a problem. It's a couple $100 million worth. It's very little money in the large scheme of things, but it is important when you actually do need those things. Permanent unavailability of some items, not rare earth, but hair extensions, let's say, will only happen if enough of these businesses go out of business in China that they don't have the capacity to even produce for us anymore. That isn't likely to happen unless this trade war goes on for a number of years and then there's no market anymore to produce things, and then there's going to be no capacity to produce these things. I think we'll be okay when it comes to hair extensions. Not sure. but I think it's going to be okay. Marty then went on to say, and he's right about this, prices go up very fast and come down very slow. It is hard enough to pass price increases along to customers of any amount. Customers, whether it's consumers or it's say salons that resell hair supplies, it really is difficult enough for them to increase their prices. They're not going to necessarily decrease them all that quickly. In fact, it's unlikely they're going to decrease them at all. They'll just get to a higher consistent level. Some hairstylists said they're seeing fewer clients because prices are going up for virtually everything. Hairstylists in Atlanta, Georgia are paying more for hair from China. Atlanta stylist Yana Ellis, who also sells products like wigs, paid an extra $245 in shipping for 52 bundles of hair in March compared to 40 bundles in December. Ania Butler said her shipping costs for human hair more than doubled from February to May. And Daja Blackshear, who runs a salon, no joke, called Hair Freak, which actually I think is a pretty cool name, and I'm sure she has a lot of fun working there. But here's where it gets serious. She found in early May that a beauty supply store raised the cost of the kind of hair that she's used for years by $100. That sounds like some fancy hair. So while I don't yet have hair extensions, I was right to say that it's going to cost more than $100 for me to get them. And that's just for the hair. It's not even including putting them on my head. The store owner said he may have to stop selling that brand of hair because it went up so much. Similarly, some wholesale hair stores, yes, apparently there are wholesale hair stores, they've seen higher costs or are expecting them in the coming weeks. Even the typical $6 to $10 cost of a pack of synthetic hair has crept up. It's actually pretty cheap for synthetic hair. Now I am thinking about it. Blackshear doesn't want clients to bring their own hair to her salon because she likes to vet the quality of the hair. But if expenses continue to mount, she may have to raise her prices. So you can't just walk in with your own, like, I bought this hair from this place or that place. Would you please put it on my head? Not yet. But things may turn to that. That's how serious this is. Quote, it's going to be extremely difficult, she said, especially for clients who are having to make those hard decisions between do I get my hair done or do I pay my bills? That's not really a hard decision. And I want everyone who needs to get their hair done to get it done. But if you have to pay your bills, that has to come first. Getting your hair did is no substitution for paying your bills. Janice Lowe, who runs the cleverly named 5-Star Salon, somehow with the word star spelled with 2 R's, in a lower-income neighborhood southeast of Atlanta, has started asking clients to bring hair and is unable to purchase certain products. Quote, I'm falling behind on my obligations, she said. The uncertainty is running wild. Consultants vary on how much prices will rise, when they'll go up, and for how long. And the full harm to stylists and consumers could be months away. The global black hair care industry, check this out, was worth about $3.2 billion in 2023, and black women spend 6 times more on their hair care than other ethnicities. I did not know that. Stylists often purchase some harder-to-get professional products from door-to-door distributors that buy from wholesale companies or larger distributors that purchase directly from other countries. That sounds a little shady, but it might be okay. Lowe has seen some of her distributors vanish altogether, making it harder to get professional lines such as black-owned leading professional hair care brand Design Essentials. That was manufactured in Atlanta at McBride Research Laboratories. That sounds like some kind of a science project, but I recently did a story talking about how the Trump administration is eliminating affirmative action transportation department contracts. It's $37 billion worth of contracts annually only available for DEI purposes. They're stopping all of that because they were sued over it in the prior administration, and the Trump administration is saying from inside the DOJ, yeah, we can't really defend this. It is discriminatory. What's fascinating is that California about 25 years ago had a similar law preventing discrimination in contracts, and they saved, as a result, $62 billion over the course of just 2 years on contracts in California by eliminating DEI-based inclusive minority business contracts. Now, I'm not saying that minority businesses shouldn't get contracts. They absolutely should. Whoever can do the work should get the contracts. But what we learned from California, and it's beyond dispute, is that when you make an extra criteria in a contract, like you have to have a certain skin color or we're not going to give you this contract, or you have to be female or have another kind of mixed gender of some sort, non-binary or whatever as part of the contracting purpose, you're going to force the taxpayers to pay a lot more for something that you shouldn't have to pay for. I wonder how much of that exists in this industry. It seems to be a little bit everywhere. We may actually have reparations and not even realize it, like stealth reparations through these ridiculous programs that put people in a bad situation on all sides. If you're not getting work based on what you're supposed to be doing and your ability to do the work based on merit, you're not going to be able to compete long term. Design Essentials is trying to delay big price increases until 2026 or 2027 and may turn to layoffs or pause promotions to save money, according to President Cornell McBride Jr. Most packaging plastics come from China, but ingredients can come from many places. Quote, nobody wants to put it to the consumer, but the person who pays is the consumer in the end, McBride said. Well, yes, that is correct. The consumer is the ultimate customer. You may have multiple customers in your supply chain. I'm a manufacturer. I sell to a distributor. They sell to a sub-distributor. They sell to a retailer. They sell to an end consumer. The end consumer is the ultimate customer, and they are the only consumer. But all those companies in between in the supply chain are also customers. Sometimes people use customer and consumer interchangeably. They can do that. But now you can listen to it and you can say, wait a minute, is it the end customer? The end customer is the consumer, or is it just one of the customers in the supply chain? It does make a difference, because if that end consumer does not buy, your product is going to get stuck in the supply chain. Hawakita and her mother usually charge customers between $160 and $250 for braiding at their shop. Their shop is called Eve's African Hair Braiding in College Park, southwest of Atlanta. Kita is determined to take losses because their customers can't afford the Atlanta prices, she said. Kita should not be that brave. Do what you have to do to get by. Don't have to mark up. So if Kita spends, let's say, $50 on her input product, and then she has service on top of that, and now she gets a 30% tariff or a 50% tariff, you can just itemize it out for your customer and say, look, I don't want to charge you more, but we did have this increase. I'm not marking it up. So we have a $15 increase. Or we have a $35 increase. Just point it out. People are smart. They understand there are tariffs going on. They will appreciate it, and they'll appreciate you communicating with them. People don't want to feel like they're getting ripped off. The cost of a box of 100 packs of braiding hair from China went up for the first time in 2 years, from $250 to $300 according to Kita. They order weekly, often multiple boxes. Some companies say they'll soon raise prices or run out of stock. Making customers happy is ultimately what will keep the business afloat, Kita said. She smiled as she recounted braiding a young woman's hair for her birthday with a style she suggested. Well, when we finished, she gave me the biggest hug, and she was in here screaming and yelling just because she really loved her hair, according to Kita. That's a great customer, and that's a great business. For many Black Americans, especially women, affording their hair care also means confronting unfavorable beauty standards. Georgia State University law professor Tanya Washington said, recent discoveries about dangerous chemicals in synthetic hair and hair straightening products have sparked conversations among Black women looking for hairstyles that don't require as much imported products. But embracing natural hairdos can be daunting for women like the soon-to-be lawyers and clerks Washington advises, who face pressure to straighten their hair. I will admit I know absolutely nothing about this, so I'm learning about it just like you. You probably know more than I do. Quote, that puts everyone who does not have organically, naturally derived straight hair at a disadvantage in these spaces, she said. I think that a definition of professionalism that favors one phenotype, European phenotype, over all others is inappropriate. The public seems accepting of all kinds of people's types and looks. And there's also no way to try to make the world fair to say like, well, if you like this type of look, I want you to like me too, and I'm going to force you to do that, and what are you going to do, have a law? Or government-subsidized hair products? We may already have government-subsidized hair products. I don't know who's paying for all this stuff. It looks very expensive. Long-standing income disparities between Black and white American women can also make higher hair care prices untenable. According to the U.S. Census, as of 2023, the median household income in Atlanta is $131,000 for white households and $47,000 for Black households. But helpfully, the Associated Press will capitalize the word B for Black, but they won't capitalize the word W for white, and that's a whole other story. It's an inequality issue that professional hairstylists are aware of nationwide. Stylist Mitzi Mitchell, owner of Pick One Beauty Services in Pennsylvania, said she stocked up on certain products and tools for another year in anticipation of price increases. She wants to avoid bootleg products, which are made illegally and often aren't safe, but become much more prevalent in the marketplace during economic downturns. Bootleg products are in all industries. These are fake products made to look like name brands, not even like generic brands. These are fake products stealing a brand name, trying to pose as if they're the legitimate product. But I'm really conscientious about my black minority clients because we make a heck of a lot less than other nationalities, according to Mitchell, who is black. But I try to keep prices low so we can continue to have the same services, but I know we'll have to raise them at some point. Prices do go up over time. That's extremely normal. It goes for everything over all time, and we are having a global reset of the entire global economy, so it is natural to expect that prices could go up on some things, and actually prices will go down on some other things. I bought some Diet Pepsi today. I like to buy lots of 2-liter bottles of Diet Pepsi, and was surprised to see the price has gone up by, say, 50 cents over the last couple of months. I don't know why the price is up, but I noticed because I like to buy about a dozen of them at a time. Gas prices seem to be down. Egg prices also seem to be down. Inflation right now is at a 4-year low. Prices go up and prices go down. But if we can't get some hair equity, if we can't make everybody's hair the same, we face a potential national disaster.